everyone, Rochelle from Sprouting Paths Homestead here, and today I am back in the greenhouse and I wanted to show you what I'm going to use to seal up some cracks between the window frames in this greenhouse here. So when we were constructing this repurposed window greenhouse this past summer and fall, I was unable to fully get around and caulk all of the various holes and cracks and just spaces that are left between the windows when you put them in to really keep drafts out and keep the heat in. It got too cold and too wet too fast, and I had to stop caulking because it wouldn't fully cure properly. So my parents were visiting this past weekend and they were like, there is this foam you can put in the between those cracks just like caulk to help. And so we picked that up at the local Home Depot. It is polyfoam caulk saver. So I have 3 different sizes in diameter. I have 3/8 inch, I have 5/8 inch, and then I have 1/2 inch diameter. So you have your small, medium, and bigger gaps that you would typically fill with caulk, and instead we're going to put in this polyfoam and we're going to see how this works. We're going to give this a go. I'm going to show you how I put it in with using a putty knife to really kind of get it in between the cracks, and we'll see how this turns out, and maybe it will help keep the heat in our greenhouse and keep it better insulated so there's no drafts coming through. All right, so I'm right up on the greenhouse tables right now. I'm gonna spin you around and I'm gonna show you the foam that I've already put in, and then I'm gonna show you the next one I'm gonna be working on. So right here, you can see this right in here. I put the 3/8 diameter foam caulk replacement in there, the polyfoam. And I took a putty knife, just a plastic dull putty knife, and I packed it right in to the crack. Now that was a smaller gap there between the frame of the greenhouse and the window frame. Now over here, I used the 5/8 inch diameter because this was a much larger gap, as you can see. So right in there, I put in the 5/8 inch polyfoam caulk replacement, and it really filled in that hole very nicely. I think I am gonna go on the opposite side and put another strip in too, because it's quite wide, the gap in between. So I wanna make sure I really have it filled in quite nicely, being as cold as it is. All right, so the next one I'm gonna try to fill is this small gap right here. So I'm gonna see if I'm going to use the 3/8 or the 1/2 inch polyfoam to fit in here. I don't wanna go too small. I actually want it to be a really snug fit. So we'll see what can fit right in here and fill in this gap. Okay, so it looks like the 3/8 inch is gonna fit perfectly in here. So I'm just gonna try pushing it in with my fingers first, and if I need the putty knife, I'll grab that. So the gap gets narrow at the bottom, so I'm gonna need the putty knife to help kind of push it in there nice and snug. Perfect. So that looks great. Let me show you. All right, so here it is. I used the 3/8 inch diameter polyfoam, and it fit perfectly from the narrow point to the wider point of this particular gap in between the window frame and the frame of the greenhouse itself. So we're gonna work on this one next, which to me that looks like another job for the 3/8 inch diameter polyfoam. right, so I'm just gonna hold the foam up. I'm gonna see how much I'm going to need, and then I will just cut that length and work it into the gap. That is a very, very tight and narrow spot. So I am going to firmly press in, but I don't want to shred my foam. So I'm going to push in firmly, but very carefully so that I can get it into the tight area. I don't really mind if I hear the foam kind of like ripping a little bit, only because it's trying to really fit into a snug area. So I know even if it does kind of rip a little bit, it's still filling in that gap and you're still gonna be okay. This part of the gap here is like really, really thin. Compared to the bottom. So I am gonna just make do with what I have here, because filling it in at least with this is better than having it wide open and letting the air through. All right, so I got it all put in there. Let me bring you up close and show you. So you can see right here was the gap I was just working on. It was wider at the bottom and more narrow at the top. And I worked from the wider point and pushed it in with the putty knife. And then here, I just did everything I could to get it in between, and if it did rip a little bit, I didn't mind because it's just filling in that gap right there. So you can see the two gaps are now filled in with the polyfoam caulk replacement, and I don't feel any draft now coming through those gaps. So I'd say that's successful. All right, so I'm gonna try to fill in this gap right here. I'm guessing I'm going to need at least 1/2 inch polyfoam to fill in this gap. It's a bit wider, so we will see if I need the 1/2 inch or the 5/8 polyfoam to fill in that gap. So this is the 1/2 inch polyfoam. And it looks to me as though the 1/2 inch will probably work quite well. So I'm gonna cut that to length and start working that in. This one's going in much more easily because it's a wider gap. It's a pretty even gap. So it's going to be a little bit more easier to get the polyfoam into. And if I feel like I need another strip of it to go in, I'll probably go ahead and put another one in. If it's a wide gap, like a deeper gap, I will go ahead and put another piece in just to be sure. This polyfoam is pretty inexpensive. I think each bag was between $3.50 and $4. So I spent a total of about $13 on the small, medium, and large sizes, the 3/8, 1/2, and 5/8 inch diameter. Awesome. I do think it needs another piece just because it's a deeper gap. I will say this, it's a lot more of a cleaner job than using the caulk gun, because I was an ever-loving mess using the caulk. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of caulking to be done around all of the windows. And I'm not saying you wouldn't want to use caulk, because you probably do for other reasons, But let me tell you, this is much more, it's much easier, cleaner, and you can do it if it's cold, wet, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can fill in these gaps without having to worry about curing time or anything like that. So there it is. You can see it is nice and filled in. Looks really good, and I don't feel that draft coming from that gap. So the polyfoam for me is definitely a winner. I'm really liking it. All right, so while I'm up on the greenhouse table here, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the job. I'm gonna look for more cracks and fill them in. And I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have a greenhouse, if you're planning to build a greenhouse, if you're trying to figure out how to keep the heat in to make it more efficient, if you have gaps in there, if you were like me and ran out of time when the weather was a bit warmer and drier and just cannot get out to caulk in any of the gaps, this polyfoam definitely would be a great resource to use. Again, you can find it at your local home improvement store. I bet you can find it online, and it's about $3 to $4 for one bag. So I'd say go for it. Thanks so much for joining me today. Bye-bye.